How's it going, everybody? This is Alex Caceres, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining us. Sorry we're a little late. We had some technical difficulties, but we're all good. I'm Will. You might be saying, where's Ramiro? Ramiro's like, oh, I have a full-time job and a family, and it's the holidays, and that's more important than the show. So he's not here, but it's okay because we got Toasty in the building, filling in for Ramiro. Thank you, Andrew, for always stepping in on short notice for your fights and for our show. It is very much appreciated. How's it going? It's been a while since you've been on.
It's going pretty good. Just getting back into the groove of things. It was a long little vacation after the fight, so running into the holidays, nothing is back on schedule. Like even work and family, everything's kind of just sort of scrambled around. So it's just kind of getting back in the groove of everything.
I understand that completely. Holidays are crazy. Let's get into it. If you haven't already, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment on our stuff, join the live chat. Makes it a much more fun experience for everybody involved. We are close to 10,000 subscribers. I think we're at 9,555. So we're very close to 10,000. So if we get there, that'd be awesome. Been a big year for us. We appreciate it. If you don't want to watch us on YouTube, you want to follow us and chat with us, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, Twitch, everywhere. It's Story of the Fight. Go to storyofthefight.com. If you want to buy this shirt, it'll be listed there. We got other merch, including the special edition Andrew Toasty Tosty shirt. Now that we got that out of the way. Oh, yeah?
I was going to wear mine today, and then I happened to wear it yesterday right when you asked me, and I was like, that's disappointing.
Yeah. Toasty filling in on one day's notice. Much appreciated. But yeah, last night we had the last UFC event of the year, UFC 296. It says UFC 293 on screen, but it was UFC 296. Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. Pantoja versus Royval 2. So let's go ahead and get into it. Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards' first title fight, not including Kamaru Usman. Colby's fourth title fight?
He had an interim fight, right? So technically it's 4.
Yeah, right. He had the 2 against
Usman.
He had the 2 against Usman, this one, and then the interim I think was against RDA.
Yeah.
Back in 2018, I think it was. Yeah. He's got a bunch of title fights. He's never beaten a contender, but he talks a lot, so the UFC rewards him. And that was not lost for this event. There wasn't a ton of hype, I don't think, for this fight. Like when they announced it, everyone's like, "Oh my god!" Like they're really doing it. Colby still hasn't beaten anybody to destroy it or to deserve it. And there wasn't really much hype until they did the press conference. Colby shows up dressed like fucking George Washington with a MAGA hat on. Shout out Regen. Thanks for joining. He says, finally, Colby's reign of terror comes to an end. Thank God. I'm so happy. It was just cathartic to watch. But the pre-fight, there's not a lot of shit talking. I think Leon's whole game was like, this guy's so beneath me that he doesn't even deserve the title shot, that I just need to get through this and then we can continue. And he wasn't really entertaining anything. And then in the press conference, Colby says something like, I'm going to drag you to deep waters, drag you to hell for that fight. Oh, while we're down there, go ahead, say hi to your dad down there. Because Leon's dad is dead and was murdered. And yeah, I think when he was 13 years old or something crazy like that.
Super young, yeah.
Super young, super fucked up to say. I get it, you're selling a fight, but sometimes things go a little too far. But it worked because all of a sudden everybody was talking about it. Dana said that the pay-per-view, the pre-buys went up 25% after that. So if anybody doesn't understand why he gets title shots, that's why. And it's crazy because he's not even good at trash talking.
Not really.
He's
not
really
really
not good at it.
He practiced that line in his shower 27 times and then went out there and still fumbled it. That was bad.
Messed up.
He still messed it up. He's like, I'm going to take you to the depths of hair or some shit.
Yeah, he said hair. It's crazy. Regen says, I saw so much racism and hate in the comments this week. Colby fans are literally the worst, man. Yeah, I was telling Ramiro yesterday early in the morning. Like, Colby is a magnifying glass on everything that's not everything, but a big thing that's wrong in America and mixed martial arts. He really highlights two really negative things about our country and the sport. The guy gets gifted title shots because he talks, and look, the best thing in his career was 2 losses to Usman. Outside of that, there's really nothing of note at all. People are like, "Oh, but he swarmed everybody." He swarmed 40-year-old Robbie Lawler after his title run. He beat welterweight RDA after his lightweight title run. He hasn't finished a fight since Max Griffin back in like 7 years ago.
There's a reason they don't show his opponents on all those highlights, because you don't recognize him.
Yeah, I mean, he has some faces, right? RDA, Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley, but it's all way past their prime. It's nobody was still good when he beat them.
He's doing the Floyd Mayweather against Tyron, like waited until he was absolutely decimated before he went in there and like did anything to him.
Yeah, and even that, like, he technically finished that fight, but wasn't it Woodley who like cracked a rib while he pulled a guillotine?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like Colby didn't finish it. But yeah, so
Gravity did.
Gravity did. He's beaten no contenders. He's gotten a bunch of title shots. Granted, the Usman fights were incredible, especially the first one. I mean, it was like amazing, but that had more to do with just the style matchup more than anything. 2 pressure wrestlers that canceled the wrestling out, and there were 2 mediocre strikers at that time, so they swang and banged. So it was a fun fight.
And this fight could have been fun too, but I don't know what it was, but like from the ring of the first bell, Colby didn't want to. He just didn't want to be there. Like, he just wanted to cash the check. Like, he did not want to participate at all.
It was weird. And I don't know how much of that is Colby, and I don't know how much of that is Leon. It's probably a little bit of both. Obviously, everybody's talking about the layoff that Colby had, but on the flip side of it, I saw the guys from Fight Metrics put a tweet out that Leon's best skill is getting everybody to fight at his pace. And going into this fight, Colby fought at like a 4.6 strike per minute or something like that, and in this it was like a 1.7 or something like that. I mean, he just slows people down, and he did really good things just right off the get. He went straight to the center of the octagon. He didn't get his back against the fence. He's throwing that front kick up the middle, even though it's a foot away. It's still showing, hey, if you shoot, there's something up the middle for you. The leg kicks were money, great distance management, and Colby just really couldn't turn the pressure on like he usually does. And I think, like I said, some of that's probably on the layoff. Colby, it's a weird kind of position to be in. But on the flip side, I think Leon is just that good at feinting and making you guess where strikes are coming and thinking about what happens if I do this, and you get in your own head, and all of a sudden you're down 4 rounds to none.
Yeah, he just got Colby like waiting the whole time, and like he just waited too long. Like, he was like, "Oh, I'll go when this happens," and then that came, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'll wait till this happens." And it's just like, at some point you gotta put your foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, I'm looking at the strikes or the stats right now. If we look at significant strikes, Colby landed 10 in the first round and 13.
I was gonna say 7. Yeah, it sounds about right.
He landed 7 in the third. I mean, and look at his leg. Look at the thigh there. I mean, after the first round, his thigh was completely bruised. It was crazy.
Super purple.
Region says Leon's pressure and leg kicks in those first few rounds is what caused Colby to look like that. I think that is a huge factor in it. Because you can't plant and drive for a takedown if your leg is chewed up. You just can't. And anytime you try to get something going, Leon's just so good at. One thing that was the most impressive for me was Leon's ability to not follow and to actually cut the cage off. Because the second Colby had his back against the fence, Leon's right in front of him. He's not following him, because sometimes Colby can guide you to follow him as he circles away, and then he'll pivot and angle off with like a couple flurry punches, and then all of a sudden your back's against the fence because you were following. He can manipulate that, and Leon's just so measured and just cutting him off and not following him that he never really got the chance to pivot around him. The other thing that was really good was the front kick up the middle to the body. Once he started, because first he was throwing it high and just missing with it, but just showing it, and then he starts digging it to the body, and it's like, that can't feel good. If you're a cardio king, that's the worst thing to eat is front kicks to the body. What did you think about Leon's wrestling?
Well, I mean, Leon's wrestling is always good. It's just
Yeah.
it's always defensive wrestling, and he used it to perfection on this fight. Like there was no real situations where Colby definitely did some big negatives in that, like, he shot in one shot and it didn't work and he kind of just stopped. He wouldn't like continuously wrestle into the next thing, which is something Kamaru did to great effect against Leon. And then like anybody who's wrestled Leon and taken him down, it's never the first shot. So I don't know what in the film thought, or it might have been just like the week of, like, Colby just didn't have the gas tank or something, but usually you see him like wrestle from one shot to another, and this one he just like he shot once, it failed, and he was like, okay, well, I'll get him on the next one. And it's like, no, the next one needed to come 30 seconds ago.
Well, yeah, and I think shout out Wide Body Media. It says if Colby can't ragdoll his opponents, he's no good. Yeah, agreed. One thing too that Leon did really well was Colby likes to shoot on the outside, where he'll go outside the lead leg and reach down and grab it, and his head's on the outside. But Leon, every time he shot like that, Leon would literally, instead of going for underhooks, he literally would just grab his neck and move his head to the center and not let it be on the outside. And then he threatened with this ninja choke that was, locked in until, Colby did a great job escaping that. But I think just making him pay too every shot. And like normally, like you said, Colby chains, but his chain isn't like, it's not like the Dagestani like style chain wrestling. It's more like he'll shoot, pop back up, hit you with a couple punches, and then he's dropped under again. Like it's just like constant shoots. He'll
pressure.
He'll pressure you. He'll drop a takedown just to land a couple punches to make you think, oh shoot, and then he's down below again. And like that just wasn't there because, like you said, Leon's counter wrestling is very, very good. I think people think of Leon as like an outside kickboxer, which he is, but his clinch work, not just takedowns or grappling on the ground, like actually on the ground, but his clinch work specifically is very, very good.
Yeah.
And he got a couple takedowns of his own. He had a really cool sweep as well. He threatened with that inverted triangle. I was like, dude, if he inverted triangles right now, that would be amazing. But instead,
it was a cool little sequence. I think it was like, I don't know if it was like near the beginning of the fight, but where like Colby missed a takedown and then Leon was like, oh, well, I'll just take you down and then stand right back up just to prove a point. That was so awesome. And then the commentary team, and then the commentary team were actually smart enough to point it out, because that's always a big thing. Is like fighters will do these things. It's just like, fuck you. And then the commentary team are like, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And like, shout out to the commentary. Rogan during the 5th round was insufferable, but at a certain point, DC is literally talking about like, what did he say? He was like, oh yeah, this high kick was sick too. And that's again another example of making him pay, because this was right after a failed takedown, I believe.
Yep.
They stood up and he immediately head kicks him. And to Kobe's credit, he took it to the back of the head. It was a good front kick to the body. It was just, I think it was a masterclass from Leon. Regent says Leon had the perfect game plan to deal with everything Kobe brings to the table. Yeah, like Leon is. Yeah, yeah. Well, like the pressure, right? He completely took that off. Kobe should drop down to 155. He's done at welterweight. I think he's done at the high level of the sport, regardless of the weight class.
He's got a Chael Sonnen career in front of him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this was similar to when Chael fought John, and it was like, he doesn't deserve this. He talked his way into this. It's happening, and it's definitely the last chance. You know, hilarious that Trump was in the front row, and Colby just completely shit the bed in front of his like idol.
After walking over there and shaking his hand before the fight.
Yeah. That was like I said, this was incredibly cathartic. I've been a Colby hater for a long time. I don't like when guys like talk trash and like there's the archetype of like the shit talkers, right? Like Chael, Colby, Connor, like all these guys. But then there's the guys who like actually back it up too when they fight. And Colby's just never been that guy to me, like whatsoever. So it's like there's nothing behind the words. So like I just don't care about them, And like it's just he's corny. But Leon, very skilled. I see some people saying like Leon should have done more. He should have done more, like kind of a bizarre performance from him. And it's like, dude, why? There's literally no need to.
Also, if he had done more, he may have worked himself into a position where he got himself too worked up, like about the father comment or about whatever, maybe about some other bullshit that we didn't hear about that he heard about. And then he works himself into a position where, Colby pulls out a Chael Sonnen where he was, or Anderson Silva, where he was losing all 5 rounds and then fucking get something crazy at the end. So Leon did exactly what he should have done that whole fight. Like, there's 100%. No reason to go absolutely apeshit.
And like, at the end of the fight, Colby ends up on top, landing some hammer fists that were like hilarious. But for like, I think he had like 3 minutes of top control in the 5th round. He landed one significant strike that round, by the way. But yeah, he had 3 minutes of top control in the 5th. He ended the fight on top. And the whole time Rogan's like, this is a bad look if you're Leon to end the fight like this. And it's like, well, hold on. This isn't ending the fight getting rocked by Nate Diaz. This is him being okay off his back for the last round, because the threat of being on the ground with Colby is not that he's going to finish you. It's that I'm going to be exhausted for the later rounds. And the fact that it was already over, he can just lay and there's literally no danger of being there for those last 3 minutes. And I thought him staying there, in my opinion, just made it like more pathetic for Colby. The fact that he was like, I don't need to worry about anything here because you don't finish fights.
Also, decade. like you finally got what you wanted, and you still did. You were never going to do anything with it. Like, if this had happened every single round, you would have just, like, you're telling everybody with this last minute or 3 minutes or whatever that you were going to do nothing the whole fight. That was your game plan.
There's just no threat to finish the fight. So, like, if he had that 3 minutes of top control at the end of the first or the end of the second or even the third, then it's like, oh, you have an interesting fight on our hands. But the fact that it was the end, it just doesn't matter. And then Colby springs up. The fight's over. He springs up, puts his hands up like he won. And it's like, dude, you used more energy and you looked faster in that moment than you did at any point during the fight.
The entire fight.
Yeah. Shout out Keith saying, hey, gents, Colby looked horrible. Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. But yeah, he reacts like he won the fight. He said in the post-fight press conference, he said he thought he won 3,
so it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah. You can never lose if you don't think that you lost.
Ask Sean O'Malley.
Yeah. But, it was also pretty great to see the whole crowd booing him in his post-fight interview. And then usually he's getting those boos and stuff because he's talking a bunch of shit. And then he's like, but you know what? I want to thank all the troops, all the first responders, and all. And then the crowd like shifts to cheering. And then this time it just didn't happen. They just kept booing him through that. So that was great to see. And then he ends it with like, fuck you guys, which was also great.
He just doesn't know how to stay a heel. He's like, I'm going to flip flop. And he's just like, no. No one's having it.
It just seems like everyone's like, it's just an act. It's just an act. It's just an act. And it's like, that makes it worse. Sometimes that makes it worse. We know Connor's an asshole. So like when he trash talks, it's like, damn, what an asshole.
Yeah, and when he's being nice, we know that's the act.
Yeah, exactly. It's like John Jones, when he starts talking about God testing him and he talks like real soft.
Everyone stops listening. We all know.
Yeah.
You run over pregnant women, bro. We know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what Colby does next. I saw someone say he'll have to fight a contender next. And it's like, please no. First off, he's never fought a contender, so I don't think he will this time. Secondly, he's got to be out of the top 5. A performance like that, you have to be out of the top 5. What's next for Leon? It's going to be either Shavkat or Bilal.
You got to give him Bilal, but they're going to try to give him Shavkat.
Yeah. Keith says
Bilal deserves
Colby
it.
Won, there was a plan to have Trump put his belt on instead of Dana. Yeah, that's what Colby was saying. I don't know if that was going to happen with Secret Service and stuff, but I'm glad that
Dana would have let it happen.
Probably. Yeah. Got Kid Rock in there too. Joke, dude. Regent says Dana said that was just one of Colby's lies, just like everything.
Yeah, because Dana keeps everything at arm's reach. He's not trying to be associated with any of that bullshit, but he also definitely wants it to happen.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say he said that because it didn't end up happening. So now he can
exactly.
Say that. But if Colby won, I would not be surprised if he let that happen. But I don't know if Secret Service would let that happen. To be honest, that's you can't put a former president in there. But Yeah, so they'll probably do Shavkat. They'll probably skip Bilal. We'll talk more about that after we cover the Shavkat fight. Shout out Ganskow says, give Colby Bilal. I don't think so. Colby, I think Bilal is. I think that's too big of a reward for Colby.
Yeah.
Giving him someone who's a fight away from a title shot or waiting
Who
for the title
deserves a
shot.
title shot.
Yeah,
Not
I think
even
he needs
one
to
fight away. He deserves it already.
Yeah, he just needs to get dropped further. He's
Give
just
him 8
not,
or 9.
He's just not relevant. The last time he beat a ranked welterweight, I think someone said it was like 2017 or 18 or something like that. He needs to prove himself, and not against the number one contender. Because what happens if he beats Bilal? He gets a fifth title
shot again.
Like, we just can't have. I cannot have that. Regent says, I hope you guys talk about the Strickland Duplessis fight. Yeah, we definitely will. Probably
during
after
the Irene.
Yeah, maybe there.
Because that's when it happened, right?
I think so. I don't remember when it happened. Keith says,
because that's when John Anik.
Brawl.
Yeah, because that's when John Anik was like, during the broadcast, he was like, "Oh, there seems to be a brawl going on in the crowd."
Yeah, okay.
I think it was the third round of the Irene fight.
Okay, we'll probably cover it at the end of the episode, maybe. I don't know.
Extracurriculars.
Yeah, exactly. But we can move on. Leon looked fantastic, I thought, in this fight. Just so
Colby
well-rounded.
didn't.
Colby didn't. So all is well in the world. Leading up to this, I was like, man, I think Leon's gonna win because all my boys are losing tonight, and
that's usually what happens.
That's usually that's how it goes. Usually, the good guys usually lose.
Yes.
Except sometimes they don't, and this was one of those instances. But we can move on to the co-main event, the flyweight title fight, the rematch between Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Flyweight's my favorite division, and it has been for like a decade probably. The top end of flyweight is so much fun to me because you have to be so technically and mechanically proficient because it's so fast that we just see high-level fights consistently, especially at the top of the division. People may say it's shallow. I don't think it's shallow either. I think it's pretty stacked. And this is a rematch between two guys that are in bangers every single time they fight. So I was very much looking forward to this more so than the main event. And I don't know. Judging by what people are saying about it online, I think this maybe disappointed some people. I loved it. What did you think of it?
I think anybody who is disappointed in this fight is one of those that's like affected by recency bias and kind of comes to expect something. And their disappointment was more of a reflection of like them not getting what they thought they were going to get more than anything else. Like the fight wasn't bad. It was a good fight, but they were all trying to think that we were going to see another Brandon Moreno fight in there. And that's not what these two do.
Yeah. I mean, Royval usually does that, right? Royval is fucking crazy. He's throwing wild shit. He's getting dropped and then dropping the guy as soon as he stands up. Pantoja is a fucking assassin, though. He is so slick, his Jack Slack always calls him the I think it's like the bar brawling back taker because he makes you think, just like he maybe tricked the audience, that he's just going to go out there and have a slugfest. But in the heat of those things, his grappling is so goddamn slick, I mean, he took Royval down. I pulled the stats up because I needed to know. He took him down 8 times across 5 rounds.
Almost 2 times around.
Yeah, 15 of the 25 minutes was him on top. His striking, he hits hard clearly, but he does a lot of like doubling up and tripling up with the same hand. Where he'll just like punch his way in with right hands, or like he'll switch to southpaw and he's just reaching with that right hand like 3 times.
And it's usually him clearing across the whole cage where he's like starting on one end and makes his way all the way to the other side of the cage by the time he ends. Yeah,
and you either catch him countering or he's gonna run through, and while you're covering up on all these punches, he's under your hips and he's taking you down. Shout out Keith says, I thought it was a great technical fight. The first round, Pantoja goes out and he's like storming the gates, like he's running at him, landing big punches, and Royval's like, he's in it, but like he's getting overwhelmed a little bit, I think. And I think that was also part of the misdirection, which was like we're swinging and banging tonight, except as soon as you commit, I'm under your hips. and you're on your back. His transitions on the ground I thought were amazing. They always are. He'll end up in guard. He passed a half guard at one point, and if he's on the right side of half guard, you can either pass around the right side to side control, or you could step through with your left leg, the leg that's in between your opponent's legs, step through and mount him. And there's a point where he's on his right hip. He's trying to push that leg down and try to pass that left leg through to go to mount. And he's, sometimes he gets stuck. So you're like, you shimmy it, right? And each shimmy, it like gets closer and closer and closer to freeing. And then as soon as it seemed like he would, he steps back, he backsteps and ends up taking side control instead. And I thought it was beautiful. It was such a great setup, and you can see there's guys who are jiu-jitsu, like world-class jiu-jitsu guys, like, Oliveira or someone who's thrown up submissions off his back and things like that. But misdirections and false, like feeding a false hope is something that like is harder to spot, I think, and maybe doesn't get recognized as like a top-tier jiu-jitsu guy. But that's what Pantoja was doing, The same thing in half guard. Instead of doing the misdirect on that, he gives Royval the underhook, lets him get to a hip, get deep into what he's thinking is either a sweep or a stand-up, and then as soon as he commits fully and he thinks he's about to get it, he steps over and takes his back. Like, it just such cool, like it's just a chess match with him. And
he did the same thing when he was like stood up over standing over Royval, and Royval was like about to get up. He would like allow him to sort of get up and put his hand on the mat. And now that he didn't have that other hand to defend, that would be when Pantoja would jump on top of him. And instead of being trapped into guard, he would like shoot right over either into side or into half guard.
Yeah. I mean, you think you're making progress, but really you're just playing into exactly what he wanted you to, and he's also one of those guys that he just looks exhausted. The later rounds,
the time.
It's crazy. And
I think he is exhausted a few times too.
Yeah. Because I think it was the 4th and 5th round where he switched southpaw, or actually it was the 5th round where he switched southpaw because he was orthodox primarily most of the fight. He switched southpaw and he's just throwing that right hand as his lead hand now. And every time he does it, he's just leaning over his leg. Like, he's not using his feet at all. They're just arm punches. And that's when Royval finally started having some success. But he looked exhausted for the last 3 rounds up to that point, and he was still taking him down, outworking him on the ground, taking his back, threatening with chokes. I mean, the guy, like, he's just so skilled. He's so skilled. And now he's 5-0 against Brandon's. How about that? Isn't that crazy?
That's very true. Yeah, it's weird. I think Pantoja is one of those guys that he can. It's almost it's a benefit, but it's a handicap to him. Like, I think because he's so technically sound, he's fighting through being tired, and he's like, oh, well, I'm still technically sound. And it's like, yeah, it's carrying you through some of these fights. But then, like, bro, those last 2 rounds, any one thing could have, like, put you on the back end of that fight, and you could have, all your work could have got thrown out. So I think he's not working on his cardio when he can, or when he should be, and where he should be. And it may rear its ugly head here come pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to bank off being able to fight exhausted because, like you said, any one of those strikes could have been a complete fight shifting shot,
Yeah.
And there was times in the Moreno fight where it looked like he was about to get finished. And you cannot have a long title run of fights like that. It just eventually that will catch up and that will bite you in the ass. And maybe that's just, he's fighting these guys and he's going to fight like that. When he fought Manel Kape, he fought very differently, right? So, like, maybe it's just he saw something in both these guys that, like, I need to push that pace early and then I'll be able to continue through the exhaustion. Brandon Royval, good jiu-jitsu. He's active off his back, a lot more active in this fight than we've seen him in the past, but it's one thing to be active offensively, but you got to be, like, defensively active too and try to get up and not accept the position, not landing punches, not trying to, because you're not going to throw up a triangle on Pantoja. Like, it's just not going to happen,
No.
Hey, there's Trump. Okay. I was hoping there was going to be a picture like this with Colby on bottom with Trump just sitting there disappointed, but there was none.
Just his hand in his fake hair. Just
damn. I banked on another loser. But yeah, Pantoja gets the win. I thought he looked great. Royval looked good. I saw someone say that Royval is the flyweight Carlos Condit. And I 100% agree with that because he's
I can see
wild
it.
on the feet. He strings together weird combinations. He looks kind of sloppy sometimes, but it's not. It's like controlled sloppiness. But the takedown defense has got to be better. And that was always Carlos Condit's weak point. He's out there banging with dudes and then getting taken down.
Yeah,
He says he needs
he
the
has too
Goggins
much of
training.
he has too much of an acceptance of being where somebody else put him. He needs to have a bit of more sense of urgency. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, you may be able to defend from being submitted, but you gotta, like you were saying, you gotta have more than. I know he has the ability, but you gotta have the want to get up from those positions. You can't just be sitting there.
Yeah, because I mean, if we look at it, round 1, 2.5 minutes were top control by Pantoja. Round 2, 3:44. Round 3, 2:15. Round 4, 4:20. And round 5, even though
Nice.
you could say, Royval won round 5, and I think he did.
He did.
Pantoja still had 2 minutes and 45 seconds of control. More than half the round was Pantoja's control. So, like, the clock's ticking in those moments.
Yeah, and another big thing is like all that control time. Like when you finally did get up, you had like 30 seconds in all 3 of the first rounds. Like if you're gonna get up, you got to get up like with some time to do something to turn the judges' viewpoint. Like the recency bias is a big thing when it comes to judging. They're gonna judge the back end of that fight a lot better than they are gonna judge anything else. So you can't give yourself only 30 seconds to work off of that.
No. Royval 111 significant strikes to Pantoja's 95. So he did outstrike him.
Which is crazy.
But,
for how little time he actually was on his feet, that's actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, he outstruck him in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it's not boxing.
Yep.
But yeah, fun fight. I like Pantoja a lot as a champion. I'm interested to see what's next. There's some guys that he should be fighting. Kai Kara France, Manel Kopp. I'd like to see a rematch there across 5 rounds. I want to see him continue. But fun fight.
I think if they book the Manel Kopp fight, it's just going to make your life a little bit harder whenever you go online and people are telling you that the division's shallow when it's been a rematch for the past 3 or 4 title fights.
Yeah, true. That's not a good.
It's not a good look, as Joe Rogan would say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can move on. We got
Manel Kopp deserves that title shot, though.
Yeah, I think so. We got Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Wonderboy is 41? 40?
Yeah.
He is 40. It's incredible how he moves. He still moves so well. The walkout with Tenacious D, fucking awesome.
Super awesome.
He's always walked out to Wonderboy the song, because obviously that's his nickname. But walking out with Jack Black and Kyle Glass, fucking awesome. I think there's Rich. If we want to move to the next picture, I think we have one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Apparently they tried to do this in the last fight, but Jack Black had to pull out due to injury or something. I don't know, but
due to injury.
But it was cool to see them walk out. I would have liked to see them for the walkout of the Kevin Holland fight, just because stylistically that was a very much more winnable fight for Wonderboy, and it proved to be. But I'm glad this happened at least in his career at least once.
Yeah, the moment's a moment, regardless of everything else.
Exactly. And speaking of everything else, Shavkat Rakhmonov on an absolute tear going into this. He was 17-0, and all 17 fights he finished.
Crazy.
I thought, yeah, it's insane.
Especially fighting people like Jeff Neal.
Yeah, that was a big test. That was a real big test, and he choked him out. But in this fight, you could tell the game plan was grapple. Don't even take any chances with a stand-up, because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is a fucking sniper. And in the few exchanges they had without being chest to chest, Wonderboy was tagging him. He's landing the left hand, he's landing the side kick to the body, and he's just such a puzzle. He's so good at just skirting, and then he's in and out. And you're like, oh my God, he's still so fast at 40. I don't know how he does it. But eventually, Rakhmonov gets him to the fence, pressures him against the fence. I think the first round, I want to say like 3.5 minutes were him pressuring him against the fence. I thought they could have separated it. Wonder Boy actually did all right considering, but I think we all expected Shavkat to grapple. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Wonder Boy's struggled in the past. Repeated takedowns. You'll eventually get him. His initial takedown defense is really, really good, but the pressure will get to him.
And Shavkat did a really good job of like you're saying, pressuring, but like waiting until he was up against the fence. Like he didn't do any of his shots out in the open, which were really, really
reaching.
smart.
Yeah, no reaching for anything because like we said, he's so good at darting that he could just catch you as you shoot on him.
Yeah, and as you're coming up off the mat is the perfect time for Thompson to throw up a kick or you shoot in a straight punch or something like that, and then you're off balance, you fall to the floor, and then it's a far worse situation than you were expecting.
Yeah, 100%. I like this sequence too. He got him almost like he tried to shoot a single leg. Thompson pulled out, tried to turn it into an ankle pick, but Thompson just refused to like let him chain it. And I thought that was really cool because a lot of times you see people defend the initial shot and then they succumb to an ankle pick or something like that. And he just didn't. That was cool. But eventually round 2, round 1, it was 3.5 minutes of control by Shavkat, but a lot of it was just holding him against the fence. I thought, 3.5 minutes with no real working probably separated, but they didn't. And that might be my bias because I like Shavkat, but Wonder Boy, I remember watching his debut and I was like, this guy's special. He did that flip, against Matt Stigen, I think. Caught him with the high kick.
Oh.
Well, yeah. But round 2, Shavkat does get the takedown, and immediately he gets that far side. He goes for the
Dagestani handcuff.
Yeah, right around his back, grabs the wrist, holds it down, tries to get like a rear naked choke, but it's like a side saddle position more so than like chest to back. It was it was bad. You see Wonder Boy grimacing, and eventually he lets go.
Super grimace.
Wonder Boy's choke defense is insane. Not even defense. It's just the fact like he just doesn't up until later in this fight. But I remember like Woodley had him in those guillotines that were just insane, and you're like, how is he even alive at this point? And then he gets out, and you're like, oh my god. And that was kind of this choke too. It's like, yeah, he didn't have a perfect rear naked choke, but that was enough to get him. Similar to Jeff Neal actually.
I was gonna say the same angle as the Jeff Neal.
Yeah. Which did get the finish. So Wonder Boy's choking toughness, I guess you could say. I don't know. It's not choking defense because he's still in
resilience,
the choke, but resilience, very good. But eventually he ends up taking the back completely and getting the choke. And Wonder Boy taps with like 5 seconds left.
Yeah,
damn it!
Right so next close. To the timekeeper too. So he heard those clacks.
Yeah, he clacked, and I was like, Wonder Boy heard that. He's gonna hold on, and that tells you something. After the chokes that he's survived, that tells you that squeeze was something else.
Yeah. So it's usually the squeeze with Shavkat. It's not like the Jeff Neal squeeze, the squeeze that he put on Thompson at that first choke. It's like even if he's not on your arteries, he's gonna squeeze your head like a watermelon. Like, and it's not going to feel good.
It still hurts. Like, some people may not know. There's blood chokes, there's air chokes, and like, you start to lose consciousness. But it's not just. Sometimes it just hurts like a bitch. That squeeze can hurt, man. It's not.
It feels
just
like your jaw's gonna explode.
Yeah, you feel like the jaws are gonna like detach and shit, like
or click together behind your fucking head.
Yeah, it's brutal. Keith says, "Well, he's still a special, bro. He's 40, taking on the next potential champ, 17-0. Respect to Wonder Boy, 100%. Everybody respects him. There's
nobody wanted that fight. Nobody wanted that fight, and he was like, sure."
Yeah, I was like, "What are you doing? Don't do this." There's still fun fights for him. They got Michael Venom Page fighting Kevin Holland. So if he can beat Kevin Holland, I think Wonder Boy versus Venom Page is something that everybody's been hoping to see for years, and now it can finally happen.
He was used as a training partner to emulate Stephen Thompson in a lot of his opponent's fights.
True. Yeah. That's a good point. Shavkat with that performance, I would be very surprised if Belal gets the next title shot. I think they're probably going to give it to Shavkat, and Bilal's going to have to fight a contender.
Especially with how much pull he had, like within like comment streams and shit like that. Like Warasenko had to shut down her Instagram for a bit.
Yeah.
Like Dana's gonna see that and be like, oh, so they'll pay money. Oh,
dude, he gets consistently gets like 90 to 100,000 comments on his Instagram posts. It's crazy. The guy's huge over there. Where's he? Kazakhstan? I think
Kazakhstan.
From Kazakhstan, fights out of Uzbekistan, I think.
He's got that Borat blood in him.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, good fight from Shavkat. Decent showing from Wonderboy, actually. I thought Wonderboy, in his moments, did really well, and his takedown defense looked good.
He didn't lose too much stock in this fight at all.
Yeah, it's a fight that everybody kind of thought he was going to lose. So the fact that you get something off is like, all right, cool. But we can move on to another depressing one. Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson.
See, this wasn't that depressing for me because I accepted the result 2 weeks ago, and you all should have done the same thing.
I accepted the results when they announced the fight, dude. We talk about Wonderboy looking pretty good at 40. Tony Ferguson at 39, it's not the same. It is not the same. And it sucks, man, because Tony, we've talked about on this show in the past. Keith says the whole country subs for Shavkat. But Tony, on the very long list of fighters that have been done dirty by the UFC, Tony is maybe top 3. Top 5 for sure. Him and Gilbert. Bad. Him and Gilbert. Him and Jacare as well. There's some guys that the UFC has done really dirty, and Tony is very close to the top of that list, if not the top. But Ganskow says at least Tony kept his consciousness. Yeah, that's a moral victory. Tony, he landed some shots in that first round. But there's this thing that he's been doing since the Gaethje fight where he gets hit and he kind of turns and he leans his head away and he shuffles away as he's still getting hit. And it's just such a bad look. And like I said, he was catching Paddy a couple times, but not a ton of damage on it. I think he broke his nose, but that's not the hardest thing to do in a fight. And Paddy, the return shots were just like deafening. Like he's cracking Tony, and Tony's wearing it well. He's not going out or anything, but he does end up getting dropped up against the fence. He goes down, and granted, on the ground, he was eating some big shots too and never looked out of it. And he was still throwing his legs up. He got to mission control at a certain point. He's trying things off his back. He did land his elbows off his back, but it's still just not enough, And
similar to the Royval thing, you gotta have a sense of urgency to get up. Like I understand you have like competency there, and like you know what you can do down there, but that's not where you want to be in this fight in particular. So like you got to have an urgency to change what's happening and get up. And even if you're not getting up, like you got to change urgency to like create a scramble, like even change the position. Like just being in that position is not a good look.
Yeah, and I get it. You want to work off your guard. That's when you have the most tools off your back. But people will shit on Paddy for, understandable reasons, right? He should have lost that fight against Jared Gordon, right? But at the end of the day, Paddy's skill set is his jiu-jitsu. That's what he's good at. So people might forget or maybe just not know because he really hasn't showcased it much in the UFC yet. He's been more of like a brawler in the UFC. Probably not by what he wants. He just leaves that chin up, so it turns into back and forth fights. But he's a jiu-jitsu guy, so it's going to be tough to submit him off your back in guard. Second round, path of least resistance. Paddy takes him down, and I think he had how much ground control did he have in that second round? It had to be the majority of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Hello. 420 ground control for Paddy in round 2. Round 3, Paddy's completely gassed. Completely gassed. And Tony's
utterly and completely.
At a certain point, he's his back is against the fence. He's sniffling because the blood keeps dripping out of his nose. And he's just like, I'm exhausted. But Tony just doesn't have it anymore to hit him with these angles and these vicious shots like he used to. And eventually ends up on his back again. And Paddy can kind of coast a little bit on top to end the fight and win a 30-27.
Yep. And it definitely wasn't through that stand-up of his, because my God, 5 of those 6 pictures that just got put up, his hand is like at his waist. Like, bro, if you're not going to put your chin down, put your hands up.
Yeah, you gotta pick one.
Hand at his waist.
Yeah,
Hand at his waist.
Rich was killing it with these pictures, dude. But yeah, Paddy did what everybody thought he was going to do. He didn't get the finish. I thought, Tony brought in David Goggins. There's a lot of talk about all that. And,
who did not look like he knew what was going on, which is completely understandable. Yeah. He was like, all right, I'm going to say something. Go get him, kid. You got it. Remember what we did.
Yeah. But
and I love David Goggins, but come on, man. He didn't need to be there.
Yeah, this Pantoja needs Goggins. Gas tank, yeah.
Tony made a call to Diego Sanchez over the weekend. Was like, "Is this a good idea?" And Diego was like, "Yeah, do it."
That's a good call out though, because I am worried that we're gonna see a Diego Sanchez type storyline here coming up for Tony, because this is now 7 in a row he's lost. I don't know if the UFC should even give him any more fights. I'm sure he'll take more fights, but he needs to retire. And a retired Tony Ferguson is a little bit of a scary thought. I'm not going to lie. He's taken a lot of damage. He's already had mental health issues. There was that whole saga where he tore apart his house thinking that there was microphones in it. He tore open his leg because he thought there was a microphone in it. He woke up his wife sitting over her, throwing holy water on her in the middle of the night.
There was all the stuff where he was getting his divorce. Yeah.
They're driving him to the hospital and they're in traffic on the highway and he gets out of the car and just runs away. It's going to get dark and it's going to be scary, and it sucks because, at a certain point, Tony's one of the greats,
Yep.
So it's a bummer, but it's a hard sport.
And we all know that the UFC is not going to take care of him in terms of like medical or mental. Like, they're going to let him. He's an independent contractor. He's not our business.
Yeah. They've already fucked him over before. So yeah, let's see. We'll move on to Josh Emmett versus Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell. Josh Emmett originally was supposed to be fighting Giga Chikadze, and he got a very different opponent in Bryce Mitchell. I don't know how Josh Emmett was the underdog in this fight, because Bryce Mitchell needs to take you down and put on his jiu-jitsu. Josh Emmett, notoriously hard to take down because he's a wrestler. And
fights out of Euro Favors gym. You would imagine he's hard to take down.
Yeah, and Bryce Mitchell's stand-up is okay, but it works well because he's such a threat on the ground.
Yeah.
But Josh Emmett doesn't have to worry about that. And Josh Emmett is leagues ahead of him in striking. And there is one picture from this fight that the UFC got across 3 photographers. One picture of the actual fight, and that picture is included next if Rich wants to switch to it. There it is.
Jesus.
That's the only picture of the fight, because that's all the fight was. They circle around a little bit. Everybody knows you have to be worried about the overhand right from Josh Emmett. Is maybe one of the hardest punches in the sport. It's definitely the hardest punch in the division, and he flatlined him with it. And
the first one he landed, first punch he landed, just bink.
Yeah, he circled him right into it, feinted to draw out a lazy jab from Bryce, and he just overhand over the jab like you're supposed to, textbook, Dan Henderson style. And yeah, he killed him. And he was out. There's some cool pictures of him out. But yeah, after the fight, Bryce was out for a while, and then they cut the camera over to him as he's having a seizure on the ground.
Yep.
And it's like, why would you show that?
Dude, they've been doing this weird thing lately where they've been like just showing all this like stuff in the cage. And I'm like, usually they would cut away and like just show the guy celebrating. And then maybe Joe will talk about it. But no, this time they're like, hey, here's a dead body.
Here's the guy seizing on the ground after being knocked. I was like, holy shit. Dana got in there. Dana was in the cage after this fight. Bryce, after the fight, can't even stand up. I think there's a picture of him having the seizure. It might be next, Rich. That's Yamcha. But yeah, I didn't want to show this.
Damn.
But that's the gist of it right there,
dude. That was a good. That's a position he was in too.
Yeah. Can we go back one picture, actually, Rich? Yep, there he is.
Yep.
But yeah,
that sucks because I love Thug Nasty too. I was like, God damn it.
He's good for the sport. He's fun to
Yeah.
watch. He's got
Yeah.
slick jiu-jitsu. He's an interesting character.
That is a
this
way to put it.
Yeah, this was a terrible matchup for him. This was
Yeah.
just terrible matchup. I should have put some money on Emmett. When I saw that he was the underdog, I was like, what is happening? Not only is Bryce taking this with no camp, but stylistically, he's maybe the worst matchup for him.
Yeah. Also, Bryce, who is your manager? And tell them to fucking go take one. Go take a hike, bro. Who signed you up for Ilia Topuria and then Josh Emmett right the fuck after? What are you doing?
Well, he did Dan Ige in between, right? Was that? Yeah, he did Ige in between, which he got the win there. That was good. But yeah, short notice against Josh Emmett. Style, I know you got to have some self-belief and stuff, but style-wise, it is the worst matchup in the division for him outside of Topuria.
Dude.
But yeah, that's the fight. Good. I'm glad Josh Emmett got a win. He's been struggling lately. Every time he gets to the top, he gets knocked back down, and it was cool to see him get a win. And just classic Josh Emmett overhand right is just very pleasing to watch. It's just a very nice technique.
Always like when the Fighting Palmer wins.
Yeah, the orc out there.
It's an elf.
Yeah, no. Let's go. Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby was the prelim main event. Jacoby, I'm a huge fan of. I really like the guy.
I like both of them.
Yeah, I do too. I've always had a soft spot for Jacoby. I'm not really sure why. I think his kickboxing is very fun to watch. He's just one of those guys who transitioned to MMA and is kind of one of those unsung guys that transitioned to MMA. You hear about the guys like Alex Pereira and all these other kickboxers that come over, but there was a point where, after he left Glory, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, an 8-fight win streak in his transition to MMA. He just didn't really get the notoriety from it. But, and he got some good wins in there. Darren the Dentist Stewart, Maxim Grishin, Michelle Olsacek is very good. Dong Young is very good. And then he met Khalil Roundtree, lost a split decision. So up until that point, there should have been some hype on him. I don't know if it's just because he's more of a point fighter with his kickboxing, but he's also just kind of gritty. He's not afraid of just holding you up against the fence, landing knees in the clinch. He's very fun to watch, in my opinion. And in this fight, he did all those things. His jab was amazing. His knees were amazing in the clinch. But when you have that equalizer, like Alonzo Menifield does, literally, I don't know what the stats were, but I mean, every single round, Jacoby was coasting, winning easily, jabbing his face off, and then he just lands one punch.
And then it took 1 minute. It took 1 minute, the end of each round, to just be like, oh, wait, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Significant strikes, Yeah, Jacoby outlanded him 93-68. But all he has to do is land that one punch, put him down, and he steals the round. It was crazy.
Shout out to Mark Montoya in the corner, because he was all night. He was been on fire, and in this fight too, he was he pointed out every single time before it happened, and then you got 5 minutes in there. You got to keep it from happening for 5 minutes, and he did it for 4. But the last minute is what got him. It's just it sucks.
I mean, that's the classic thing, right? Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the first fight. You have to be perfect for 12 rounds, because if he catches you, you will go down, and he did. And it did. And that's it's tough to be the guy who wins, who has to win all 5 minutes of every round. It is difficult. It's very difficult to do. You might watch the fight and be like, yeah, he's winning. He's clearly the better striker. Just keep out striking him. Really hard to do.
And that was my thought afterwards, is like this fight shows me who won the fight, but it doesn't tell me who the better fighter was. You could see that Jacoby is objectively the better fighter.
100%. But
I mean, a fight's a fight, bro. You get hit in the jaw and you go out. You lose. End of story.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're better. Regen says Alonzo Menifield just sounds like a dude that hits hard. I mean, and the punches that he was landing, it was that left hand that it wasn't even like a hook. It was just he's just swinging his arm like a baseball bat out there and just barely clipping him at the end of it.
Yep. That one in the last round, it barely turned his jaw, but
yeah, I thought excellent recovery from Jacoby. He got dropped a couple times. They only credited him with 1 knockdown. I thought there was 2. I thought there was 1 in the first and then 1 in the third. Maybe, I don't know. I have to rewatch it, but I thought there was
Their
at least 2
statisticians
knockdowns.
are weird.
Yeah, they're always. What do they count as a takedown? What do they count as a knockdown? No one knows. But
They tried to argue with DC that one fight. That was retarded.
yeah, there's like in the broadcast, you're like, hey man, just keep talking about the fight. Stop. Why is the producers arguing with them? But yeah, Menifield, good job getting the win there. Sucks to see Jacoby lose a close decision like that again. But that's the game. We could go ahead and move on. We're 55 minutes in. And we haven't even gotten to the best fight of the card, which is next, which is Irene Aldana versus Karol Rosa. Fight of the night, like everybody predicted. Everybody thought this was going to be.
Oh yeah,
fight
for
of
sure.
the night.
Yeah. I wrote it in. It was part of my parlay.
Yeah, like this one's definitely winning fight of the night. Bet the house. Round 1, not great pictures of this fight, at least from the first round, because round 1 was just all leg kicks from Rosa that were chewing up Aldana. She had no idea what to do with it. And at the end of that first round, her leg was mangled. Absolutely mangled. Yeah, there is a good picture of the leg. Yeah, just mangled. And that's just the inside. The outside was bad. You can see the swelling on her shin there.
Yep.
One thing that was helping her is the inside leg kick is effective. It's not as damaging. And you might look at that and be like, it's clearly damaging. What are you talking about? It's not fight-ending damaging. It's just not. Outside leg kicks are. Inside leg kicks just really aren't. But they are very effective at disrupting your opponent and taking them off balance so that you can do other things, not letting them step in, things like that. It really does a good job of that. I'm sure it hurts like hell, but it's almost like it's more superficial than it is like your knee's not going to buckle from inside leg kicks, not nearly as much. You're not going to get drop foot from an inside calf kick. It needs to be the outside of the calf. Things like that. That being said, most people would not be able to rally past that first round if you're Aldana and win the next 2. Because if you thought the leg was mangled, Rosa's face at the end of this fight, graphic warning, by the way, if you don't like blood, there's shout out Genevieve if she's watching. But after that first round, it was all Aldana and just beating her face, dude. It was brutal to watch. And here's a picture of Rosa trying to land that leg kick again. She did land it throughout the fight, but I mean, Aldana just in her face for the next 10 minutes after that first round, just refused to stay on the outside and get her leg chewed up further. Really cool to watch.
Which is crazy. When I first watched it, I thought like, oh, she's kind of stopped kicking the leg a bit. And then I rewatched it this morning and I'm like, oh no, Irene just decided to keep throwing the whole time. Like she was still getting hit in the leg, but she's like, oh no, eat this punch now. Eat this punch now. Eat this punch now.
Crazy, dude. Yeah. Just very good performance. I think, let's see. I think it shot into the top 10 for strikes landed in any fight. And I think it's tied for second for strikes landed in a 3-round fight.
It broke the record for leg kicks.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aldana landed 145 significant strikes. Rosa landed 204. Or that's total strikes, sorry. Significant strikes, Rosa 204. Just kidding. They were all significant, apparently.
Everything's significant today.
Everything's significant. Karol Rosa, 50% to the head, 46% to the body. Aldana, 84% to the head. And that was the difference maker. I wish I could see leg kicks per round, but or actually I can. Let's see.
Irene definitely needed this fight. She needed this performance though.
So
especially after that title fight.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And like you said, you thought Rosa stopped throwing the leg kick throughout the fight, but then realized that she landed 32 in the first round. And you're like, yeah, that was evident. She landed 29 in the second and 34 in the third. She kept throwing.
That's crazy.
She kept landing it. Like she landed it as much in every round as the first. It just, man, Aldana just tough as nails. And tough as nails from Rosa too, because she was getting lit up. I mean, clearly, look at her face.
It also shows like Irene's mental toughness, because like you would say that she lost the first round and she goes, okay, well, I lost that round. The coach tells me I lost that round. Maybe I need to change what I'm doing. No. We're just going to keep doing the same thing, pour more fire on it. That's all we're going to do.
Yep.
Like that takes a lot of mental strength to be like, no, this is the right decision. I don't care. We're going to go for it.
My game plan is sound.
Yeah.
I just have to. Yeah, the last picture, Rich, if you go back to that, is just a brutal picture, man, and just the epitome of this sport.
Yep.
Ah, man. If you're just listening, you should definitely be watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, because you can see there's a picture of Aldana hand raised at the end of the fight, and in the background is Rosa just head down, looking like I just got told I'm not going to be able to have dessert when I'm 10.
And they're both wearing a crimson mask.
Yeah, both bloody.
Just
Look at Aldana's
crying
hands.
blood.
Look at her hands, just covered in blood. Crazy fight. Like Keith says, up for fight of the year, 100%. Fantastic fight.
Probably might win it only because of recency bias, but it was a very good fight.
Yeah,
very hard for a 3-round fight to win fight of the year too.
Yeah, and it's up against Shavkat versus Neil, which is also a 3-round fight. There's been some good 3-round fights this year. I think Islam Volk 1 is probably going to take it. But recency bias, this might surpass that. And if you wanted like action, this fight was more action packed than that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but skill wise, I think Islam.
The other one was just tension based.
Tension based, but just very cool, high level reads, and it was a fun fight. Let's see. Moving on, we got Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. Man, crazy to see Cody on the prelims and not even the main event of the prelims.
Match made by our competition winner by UFC.
Yeah. The guy who UFC had the competition, for those who don't know, where you could put together your own dream cards on their website and stuff, and the winner got a chance to like work on a card, and then he did, and then they were like, this guy's fucking good, and then they just hired him. So this was the first fight outside of that he put together, and very good. I don't know the haircut from Brian Kelleher. I don't know if that was
he deserved to lose because of that haircut. What the fuck was that?
He looked like it's like the opposite. It's like the Mr. Negative version of Rudy Giuliani's lawyer from this weekend. You see that? You see that guy?
Oh my god, dude!
Let me see if I can.
His hair looked like fucking seaweed on the bottom of the fucking seafloor. My god.
Yeah, dude. This is let's see. I have it here. Let me share it real quick. But yeah, the haircut's abysmal. I don't know what that is. Let's see. I'm just gonna send you this picture, Rich, in the private chat.
Kelleher also didn't look like he wanted to go in there and win. He looked like he was just, not that he was like just going in to get a paycheck, but it didn't look like he was ready to fight. He kind of like was like, okay, this is my game plan. I'm going to do it, but I'm not like ready to do it type thing.
Yeah. Regent says Will is such a nerd. I wear that proudly. Hey, there's Julian's lawyer. It's the opposite of Kelleher, dude.
Yeah, that is
the Mr. Negative version. But yeah, back to the fight. Yeah, like you said, Kelleher had the game plan. He's rushing in, trying to grapple. It's going to be tough to grapple someone like Cody Garbrandt. Kelleher does a very good job of putting his hands together to get to his takedowns. But this guy's a former champ, and the question is, are you going to out-grapple him? Absolutely not. Can you chin him? Probably. But it's not like Cody's problem has never been his offense. It's still elite offense, It's just he's if you ding him, he might go down. And in this fight, he couldn't ding him. And Cody on the flip side did.
Yeah,
he still hit so hard.
And that elite offense definitely came through. Like right before the knockout sequence, there was that I think it was like 4 or 5 punch combo as he was like running across the ring. And you could see after that, Kelleher, after they separate, Kelleher takes a little bounce and goes, damn, that was a lot.
That hand speed, his hand speed is
a lot.
Elite. And the other thing, like you said, he rushed him right. He's throwing those punches, and when they reset, and he's hurt, you could tell he stung him. And Cody looks like he's about to come in, and he's like, actually, no, I'm gonna walk towards him. And I was like, look at him, he's growing. he's growing. And then
he was an adult the whole time up until he started pointing at his corner, and he was like, I'm gonna get him.
Yeah. When he heard him, he looks over, he does a little thing, and I was like, oh no, don't feel yourself too much. But then it didn't matter because he snuck that right hand in up close. The inside fighting very good from Cody Garbrandt. He drops him, goes face first, and he stands over him, and he's like, actually, instead of ground and pounding, I'm just gonna take a bow for that knockout. You're welcome, everybody.
Yes.
It was great. And it was great.
Yeah, that's all we needed.
Yeah. He then goes on to call out Davison Figueiredo. He wants to fight He wants to fight on UFC 300. I don't know about that. Ganska says
That's a
everyone.
bad fucking matchup, Cody. God damn it. What are you people doing?
Yeah. Ganska says everyone forgot Garbrandt was on this card. I'm glad he got the KO win. Yeah, it was very cool to see him get a win here. I like the guy. He had
Everyone forgot what was going on in this card because there was no goddamn promotion for this card. Like, at all.
It really wasn't. Yeah,
at
it really
all.
wasn't. And Cody, he's had some like, dude, the on Ultimate Fighter when he was coaching and he's hanging out with all the fighters and he's just having the time of his life.
Me and my homies still say that all the time. Hanging out with the boys.
Yeah, same, dude. Yeah. Classic Cody Garbrandt. He also, in the lead up to the TJ fight, he was like, "We knew you were juicing the whole time. You're the one that showed Alpha Male, everybody at Alpha Male how to juice." And it's like, wait.
So you're saying?
What?
So you're saying?
Just come on. Yeah, but so just class. I love Cody. Regent says Figgy should definitely take that fight. 100%. That is a very good fight.
At that weight class for him to introduce himself.
Yeah, he just beat Rob Font. I mean, I don't know if you're Figgy though, because you get the name a win over a name like Cody is good, but rankings wise, he's like one fight away from a title shot if he goes up after beating Rob Font. So I don't know if he takes it. Maybe he does for UFC 300, gets a bag, and then gets a good name on his belt. And it's a very winnable fight. But we can move on. We're an hour and 6 minutes in. We got a couple fights to cover still. Ariane Lipski versus Casey O'Neill. Ariane Lipski living up to her nickname, the Queen of Violence. Ramiro is probably jumping for joy after this fight because he loves her. Right off the bat, everyone knows Lipski came from KSW. Everybody thought she was going to be a champ immediately. She wasn't. She had some glaring holes in her game. She's still figuring those out. But in this fight, she looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Long combination punches followed up with kicks. Everybody says you put together a combination like it's a sentence. You punctuate it with the kick. Your hands are the sentence. Those are your words. Punctuate it with an exclamation point. That's a kick. Whether it's a high kick, whether it's a low kick, doesn't matter. It creates an exit for yourself after a combo that really shuts down your opponent's counter game. And Lipski clearly understands that.
It's also one of those things. It's also one of those things that like naturally will move your head off of the center line, just like without you trying to do anything. Like even if you're trying to keep your head straight as you're kicking, you're gonna kick yourself in the head. So it's just sort of natural to bring it out of line. So it's like you're saying, it's such a good way to end a combo because it just keeps you safe the whole time.
Yeah, 100%. And Casey was struggling with that. Even if the hands weren't landing, she still couldn't do anything in return because she has to worry about the kick. And there was a couple times that Lipski hurt her bad and has her on skates, like the baby deer, and couldn't quite put her away with the punches and the striking. And eventually, Casey, I think it was round two. Yeah, round two, Casey started landing her own punches. That looked pretty good, but it eventually went to the ground. And Lipski is trying to take her back, trying to sink in a choke, switches to the armbar. Didn't look like she had the full control over the armbar because her legs weren't quite like symmetrical. And
they were like scissored over her.
Yeah, and then she ended up shifting her hips the other way and using that to create the angle on the armbar. And she got a pretty damn good angle on that armbar. This was a gnarly one.
To where I had to look away.
It was bad. It was real bad. There's a few good pictures of like the whole sequence of the armbar. And again, if you're squeamish, if you don't like seeing limbs bend the wrong way, maybe don't look because that's what we got.
Yeah.
So she's on top. She takes the back, threatens with the choke, doesn't get it, switches to the armbar, which is very good. There's that scissor grip with her legs. And then Casey did a good job of when they went to the ground, what you want to do, let's keep the picture here real quick, Rich. You can see above the hands of Lipski is Casey's right leg. And what you want to do is you want to step over your opponent's head with that leg, and that'll create an escape for you. And it takes away a lot of their torque, but it did not matter. And maybe it's because of the way she had her legs, but she did step over and it did not matter
at all.
Lipski just stayed on it. There's a couple pictures of the sequence here if we just want to click through them. And look at her face, man. It's just like, this is bad. Oh, that's real bad there. It's really bad there too.
And like she already has the leg over, it's still not stopping her.
Yeah, it's still not stopping her. And I don't know if there's a picture of her leg over completely because she did eventually step completely over, and it just didn't matter.
Especially at that point where your arm's already pointed the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think, Rich, I just put in the private chat, the last 2 submission wins that Lipski has under her belt are brutal. I mean, just absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the bend on the arm and the leg. I mean, look at just a brute, and living up to her name, the Queen of Violence.
Yeah, and there's no hesitation there. Like a lot of times, people will go for these limb submissions, and they'll kind of like, "Are you gonna tap? Are you gonna tap? Are you gonna tap? All right, I'm gonna let go." Lipski doesn't care.
No, she's taking that, dude. That's an arm on her wall. That's a leg on her wall at home.
She's building a body.
Yeah, she's Frankensteining somebody. But yeah, good win for Lipski. Casey O'Neill, a little bit of a hype train on her. Maybe not anymore. I don't know. But fantastic armbar from Lipski. We can move on. We're an hour, 10 minutes. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. 2 wrestlers fighting is usually a fun time. And this one's no different. Durden has a crazy pace. Ulanbekov is, I would say, more skilled in the grappling. But Durden's got some sneaky hands. He lands like those wrestler combos, the overhand right for a wrestler like Josh Emmett, because the entry looks very similar to dropping for a takedown. And then you say, just kidding. And you land that overhand. He's has good success with that. Whereas Ulanbekov's a little bit more of like a sniper in his striking, long straight punches, fast in and out. Cody tried a couple times to grapple with him and just couldn't quite do it. He did take him down eventually, and it was cool. One thing that really stood out to me was Ulanbekov's use of the overhook over the arm, because sometimes you can get like a submission sometimes in guard if you just overhook your opponent's shoulder and then squeeze it. Yeah, tuck it in, squeeze it, hip up, bridge.
Orlando Sanchez.
Yeah, you can get some good torque on that. What he did instead is he overhooks the shoulder and then gets a butterfly hook in and uses the overhook as the anchor, right? Kicks him over with the butterfly, sweeps him. Fantastic. And then later in the stand-up clinch, there's no good pictures of it, but same thing. He had his back up against the fence twice. He gets that overhook, steps through to the outside trip or on the same side, and just fantastic takedown. It's a cool takedown. Really good use of that overhook on the shoulder from Ulanbekov. And then eventually gets that choke. He hops his back standing up, gets it, they fall down, gets the choke. Durden originally escaped the choke, I want to say.
Yeah, he rolled through on it and then got caught again.
Very cool submission defense from Durden. A couple times he's been in nasty spots with submissions and he's gotten out of it, but you can only do that so many times. And eventually, Ulanbekov got that choke.
Yeah, you're only going to escape so many chokes with a guy whose last name ends in KOV.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, here's a cool picture of him dropping down on the back. But yeah, that's pretty much it from that fight. It was a fun fight.
Yeah. That takedown is a really cool takedown for MMA too, because it's like for wrestling, it's such a dangerous takedown. So you don't see a lot of wrestlers practice it because it puts you in such a dangerous position. I think in the second time he did it, he actually ended up he was on his back when he threw him over. Yeah. And it's like in a wrestling situation, that's like so dangerous. But in MMA, it's just like, okay, well, if I miss it, you're in side control. Okay, we can work from there. It's no big deal.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Next, the last fight we're going to cover is Andre Fili versus Lucas Almeida. Andre Fili, man, how could you not like the guy?
Yeah.
He's in fun fights, win or lose every single time. When he looks good, he looks like a damn world beater. His striking is so sharp and long. He uses his range really well. And this was kind of a showcase fight for him a little bit.
It was a good fight. I mean, I love seeing Andre do well. He's such a cool guy. Like, he's one of those guys that like you saw grow up like all the way through UFC. I think he was like 1920 or something like that when he got in there. He's been in there for a long time. His
UFC debut was in 2013, 10 years ago, and he is 33 years old.
Yeah.
Crazy, dude.
23 years old as a UFC debut, and we just seen him grow up and to be like a full-fledged adult man now.
Yeah, and early in this fight, he landed a nice jab, and then he exits out on the right side. He's orthodox, right? So he lands the left jab. This is. I think this is the sequence of the finish. But he did it earlier in the fight too, where he lands the jab, exits on his right side, and lands a short little right hook as he's exiting out. and Almeida just stood there for it. And I was like, ooh, that's sneaky. And Almeida doesn't look too reactive on that. And then he did it again where he almost like triple jabbed in the second time and then circled out, lands his right hand, and then puts him down with it. Really cool combo. Triple jabbing and things like that, like Pantoja, repeated punches with the same hand can be so effective because most people go left, right, left, right, left, right. So if you can double up, it's all about breaking rhythm, right? Like even if you just even if you are going left, right, but you stutter in between and you go off beat, it can just really mess people up. And seeing somebody triple jab in and then come out with the right hand, just very good work from Andre Fili. And that's like high level stuff that seems so simple, but it's so hard to actually do and like think of in a fight. Like most people, you want to go left, right, because the left hand naturally sets up your right hand to come through, and a right hand naturally sets up your left hand. So it's very hard to break that. But the reason, it's so natural, that's why it works so well to break that rhythm, or it can work so well. And it worked well for Andre Fili. He got the finish in like a minute 30 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a short fight, but it was a good one.
Yeah. Good to see him get a win. Like I said, he's had a lot of ups and downs in his career, so very cool to see. We're only going to skip the last fight. It was a terrible fight. Gaziv versus Budai. It was just, Gaziv just ran through him, and not much to talk about other than the fact that Budai, I guess, used to be a professional Counter-Strike player. I saw a comment that was like, professional Counter-Strike player, he couldn't even Counter-Strike. But yeah, Ganskow says, I'm always afraid Andre Fili is putting more energy into his band's career than his fighting career.
I mean, whatever makes him happy.
Whatever makes him happy, and he's still at the high level, man. He's 23-10, not the best record, but man, he's had some fun performances, and like, he's been on the verge of retiring a couple times, getting on the wrong side of split decisions, things like that. So like, I'm glad he's still doing it. I
saw him at my fight last month.
Oh, really? He was there?
Yeah, he was in the lobby. It was pretty cool. He's actually pretty tall for like, you think he's like shorter, like a shorter guy, but like he's like taller than me.
Yeah, I don't trust any of the heights that the UFC puts out there because they say Leon and Usman are the same height, and like Leon's clearly like 4 inches taller than him.
Well, I mean, they don't measure him. It's literally just what you write down on the paper. Like I could write down 6'4", and that would be what they announce.
I saw multiple people have told me I've never been. The UFC has never measured me for my reach. So like anytime they show the reach, it's just like
it's just what they put in.
Decide. Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah.
Also, most people don't even know how to measure their reach. They're like, oh, it's from here to here. Like, no, that's not how that works. Like, that's not how that works.
John Jones has 84-inch reach. Mine's only 40. It's crazy. But that's it for the card. It was all around. I think it was a good event. There was some. I think people had higher expectations for maybe the title fight and some other fights on there, but I thought it was a good event. Moment of silence. We can move on to the moment of silence. Dariush versus Saryukin was originally supposed to be on this, and then they moved it. The one that really bummed me out was Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. Salikov's one of my favorite fighters, and Randy Brown's always in good scraps, so I was really excited to see the whole event would have been kicked off with this fight, and it fell through like a day before, 2 days before. Josh Emmett was supposed to fight Giga Chikadze. Chikadze withdrew because he always does lately, and then Bryce Mitchell steps in, gets Yamshad, and then the big one that had the most talk around it was Vicente Luque versus Ian Machado Gary. And Gary got pneumonia, had to pull out like a day before, 2 days before. They couldn't get anything else put together. That's it.
I bet you Ian's upset that his wife's boyfriend couldn't pull out.
Yeah. Damn. God damn, dude. Oh man. Yeah, I don't even know. I'll let that be. They just announced he's fighting Jeff Neal. That's going to be an insane buildup just because of all the drama.
Oh, they changed. They changed the opponent now.
Yeah. Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal. It's going to be a lead up to that fight.
Wait, so Ian Gary pulls out and Vicente Luque loses the fight.
I think the UFC is punishing him because apparently they came to him with like 3 fights on short notice.
Oh my god! I hate that shit. It's so stupid. It's not Vicente Luque's responsibility to keep your card together.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had 3 opponents, why not put those 2 people together? God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. But whatever. Maybe they also think marketing wise, Machado or Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal is going to be fucking crazy. So they're just like, that's a bigger
I guess.
fight because they already have the heat and the drama, and now there's some things that Jeff Neal can come back with, to say the least. But yeah, that's it for the card. Regen wanted to hear about Duplessis versus Strickland, so let's go ahead and pull that up. I'll get the clip for you real quick, Rich.
Even Gilbert Burns'
bonuses,
son
actually.
got in the scrap.
Yeah. Bonuses, actually, while I look for this. Josh Emmett got one for nuking Bryce Mitchell. Aldana versus Rosa got fight of the night for their war. And then Lipski got one for her armbar, and then Gaziv got one for steamrolling Blue Die. I'm not really sure
Looks
why.
like Josh Emmett throws a $50,000 overhand.
Yeah, seriously.
Like the only punch he threw the whole fight.
Yeah. Let's see. So in the crowd, they had Sean Strickland and Duplessis right next to each other.
Who the fuck decided that?
Yeah,
who did that?
Dana did.
What a fucking idiot.
No, what do you mean? This worked out perfectly for him. This was 100% staged by the UFC. No doubt in my mind, the fact that they had multiple cameras on it and then showed it as a multi-angle edit at the end of the event. This was 100% planned.
Nobody was there to stop Strickland as he told his Gilbert's kid to get out of the way.
Yeah, hey, move, because I'm about to do something. Rich, I just put the Twitter link in the chat. If we could play that, it's not. This isn't the UFC's angle. This is just a cell phone angle that was real close. So there's Strickland telling the kid to move, and then he jumps at him. Yeah, they're talking shit.
Get out the way, so I can do this.
Classic.
I don't want to hurt kids.
Strickland ends up on his back here. I don't know if it's because people were pulling him off or if Duplessis just hit the takedown, or maybe he just tabletopped him over some of the seats. Yeah, get a little altercation.
I mean, what a gentleman, really. Strickland just like getting kids out of the way, protecting the small ones. Yeah, what a 100%. Gentleman.
Landed some punches that probably hurt his hand more than hurt Duplessis. Punching someone bare knuckle on the top of the head, it's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt.
Yeah. Not conducive to victory.
No, not much damage other than your hands. But that'll help sell the fight. They'll use that in promos.
Just like the bus ride.
Just like the bus ride. Exactly the same.
It's sick and disgusting, but we're gonna use it in every promo.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be a fun fight. I think Duplessis wins that fight. I think he's just too much of a tank for someone like Strickland. I
know the UFC want him to win.
And Strickland's style is so it's so hard to get through he has layers of defense that are very hard to get through, because if you fight in a traditional technical, but the lean back, the skirt back, he steps back, he leans back, he frames out here, very hard to get through all those things. And then, so it's difficult to get through, especially if you fight technically. Duplessis fights like a fucking deranged person, so I don't think it's going to be effective against him. You know what
Somebody
I mean?
Who can't breathe out their nose.
Yeah, he fights like a fucking man possessed, just like the weirdest technique I've ever seen, but he's so effective at it. And I think because of that type of defense really only works with like traditional strike. Sometimes like you grapple with someone who's never grappled before and they're just spazzing out, going crazy.
Yeah.
And you're like, my shit's not really working against them until they get tired.
Yeah.
And that's like the epitome of Duplessis. He just like spazzes at you and you're like, hey man, my traditional fighting's not working against you because what are you doing?
This is not fighting. This is dancing. Stop it.
Yeah. You're just like running at me, throwing weird shoulder punches and like your arms are locking out at the end of each punch. Like it's just so weird. But it's very effective. And I think it's going to beat Strickland's striking defense. But that's it. That was the last UFC event of the year. Next week is Christmas. I don't know if we're going to have an episode. If we do, it'll be covering Taiwan Shai versus Superbond. One's having a pay-per-view, $40. I'll be watching it, but I don't know if we're going to cover it. Maybe we do it on like Monday or Tuesday or something like that, just because of the holidays. I don't know. And then we'll do our awards show around New Year's probably. We got the story of the fight belt that will either stay with me or it will go to Ramiro, depending on what our predictions were. I have no idea what our predictions were. We'll have to go back and look. And then you guys all have put your predictions in the beginning of the year. The winner of that will be getting a mini version of the story of the fight belt. So we will see. We'll go through all that. Andrew, thank you for stepping in on short day's notice. Very much appreciated. I know. I texted you yesterday evening. Hey, are you watching the fights? And you're like, yep. And I was like, can you fill in? And you're like, that's what I do. I was like, very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Keep the show rolling. Like I said, Ramiro is putting his family first instead of the show. I don't understand it. But thank you guys all for joining. Ganskow, Regen, Keith. Let's see. We had Wide Body Media. I appreciate all of you guys stepping in here, making the show. It literally makes the show a lot better when people are in the chat. It's a significantly better show when we can interact with people. It's hard to think of everything on our own. So when people can throw in new ideas into the chat, it's a much better show. So it's appreciated. We are very close to 10,000 subscribers. Last I checked, when we started the show, we were at 9555. Let's see if we got any more. If we did, thank you. We're at 9563. So thank you guys for the subscriptions. We're getting there, getting to 10K. If you don't like listening, you could watch us on, if you don't want to watch on YouTube, you can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Twitch, everywhere. Just go to storyfight.com. It'll show all of our links. If you want the cool Story of the Fight merch, storyofthefight.com will have it. Let's see. Ramiro usually closes the show, so I don't know what I'm talking about right now. But Toasty, thank you. This episode was produced by Richard Bustos. Thank you very much. That's a long applause.